Hi,
Yeah.
Liz. Thank you so much for joining us today. I love your background. I just want to get that officially on the record. And I'm going to go ahead and let you introduce yourself. Oh, I should probably turn on my camera too, so people don't wonder where the spectral voice is coming from.
Oh,
And
you're totally
James,
fine.
maybe you could do the introductions from now on if you don't mind. I should probably, would you, what will that cost to have you do a little announcing for us? So. Oh, you're on mute. But anyway, we're gonna turn it to Liz. Joking aside. So Liz, welcome and thanks for joining us today.
Yeah,
The only
absolutely.
payment, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
no, go ahead.
The only payment that I would request is that when they hear these dulcet tones, that they tell their friends that they know a guy who will do voiceovers for them. So that would be the finder's fee, and without a finder's fee, anyway. Go
I
ahead, Liz.
I,
Free
I can
promotion.
agree to those terms. All right.
All right.
Free promotion. But yeah, hi. Thank you for having me. Excuse me. My name is Elizabeth Alcantara Loza. I am the California coordinator for Local Progress. I've been on the team officially for 2 years, but separately, I have been a member of Local Progress for about 7.5 years. Because I am also a local elected official at the same time. I've been serving on the Cudahy City Council now for nearly 8 years. This is my eighth year, really focusing on rent stabilization, environmental justice issues, and building out a bench of progressive Latinas, of which we are 4 out of 5 now on the city council. It's taken a while, but we got there. Because of that, we've been able to get rent stabilization, eviction protections, tenant protections as a whole. We are joining the Clean Power Alliance officially this year, which is a community choice aggregate model that is going to take us to 100% renewable energy. And that is in a community that is not the typical green community. I think on paper, we're 97% Latino, about half of folks are immigrants. A quarter of our entire population is estimated to be undocumented, and still pushing for the right issues because everyone deserves all of these amazing services. So yeah, we love Cudahy. It's a small town, 1 square mile, about 25 to 30,000 people. So we are very, very dense. But anyway, that's sort of what brought me to Local Progress. When I was first elected, I was 25 years old, only progressive on the council. It was a very lonely experience where feeling like, being of this mentality, what made you feel like you were crazy? Everyone talked about it like you were crazy and radical just for wanting better for our communities. And so I was crying one night and being like, there has to be other people that think this way. And started Googling like progressive, left, municipal, and that's how I found Local Progress one night and joined it right away. Was brought into the network, and years later I started on their team. And my role, or actually, let me explain Local Progress as a whole. Local Progress, we support progressive local elected officials. That's everything below state level: school board, water board, city councils, county supervisors. We have rent control boards, we have library districts, etc. Everyone under state level. And we support them with 3 prongs. One of them, the big one, which I'm a part of, is our organizing side. Just getting folks into the network, getting folks to connect with others that are like-minded really helps folks that are thinking and want to push issues like we do. And then, of course, the policy side, which is a big hurdle for a lot of folks on the left, where they want to do really good work, but unfortunately, for one reason or another, whether it's their city council or their city attorney or their city manager, policy becomes really difficult. So we support them with that. And the last part is convening folks. We have a large convening in every summer where it's just elected officials and other partner organizations, that can meet and share and learn from one another. And especially in these moments, it's so important to have spaces like that, because we are all struggling. And so I will link our website here. But that is all the work that we do. We do also have really amazing resources that are public for everyone. These resources, I want to point to the No Secret Police Toolkit, which is the first one currently on the resources page. It is our latest campaign, and it is around, it is very encompassing no data for secret police, so making sure that, data that is collected by cities or counties or school districts is not shared to federal immigration agencies, collaboration with secret police, no public funds, no public space, etc., and no funding. We should be sending our funding, building up funding for programs that support our communities, not programs that really hurt and impact our communities negatively. And then I also want to point out, we, California is obviously thought of as like the big progressive state. But it's not necessarily always the case, and we didn't have a California chapter up until December. So in December, we formed our official chapter. We have nearly 300 members, of which are all local elected officials. And yeah, folks really want to talk about progressive revenue. They want to talk about environmental justice in a way that not only mitigates harm, but reinstates a healthy environment, water, air, soil. They want to talk about housing that is green, but that is also affordable to our communities and that is not displacing. Really, those are the main topics at hand. And of course, in these times, pushing back against authoritarianism and immigration, the big issue, how can localities really support immigrant communities so that they are not, at the behest of the federal immigration enforcement. So yeah, that was a lot, but I'm happy to pause. We have over 1,800 members now nationwide, nearly 300 in California. We had 300 and then someone resigned, so we're at 299. Resigned for mental health, unfortunately, but yeah. Trying to support folks, and of course safety is a big one. So if you're interested, we don't do electoral work at all. It's only once folks are elected. So if you know anyone, share them the link and happy to connect with them. We don't have we've always been virtual since before the pandemic. So work from home is my house.
Awesome. And you mentioned the No Secret Police Toolkit. There is a webinar happening today or already happened
It
today, I
happened
believe.
yesterday.
Oh, it was
Yeah,
yesterday. Okay, great.
that's what
Um,
I meant.
but thank you. Yeah, so you're happy to share more, or if you want, we could start with questions from the group. I just want to, it's up to you. There's always more time. So,
Yeah.
great. So let's start with some questions. Just ask the people, instead of asking them in the chat, like James. James is modeling excellent behavior. Raise your virtual hand or come on and wave at me and I'll notice you and try and give everybody a chance. Just ask that it is try and keep it to one question so we can get as many people to ask questions, but also appreciate people coming on camera too. So James, please.
Thank you. Liz, real quickly, is a group and I hate to be parochial about this, but there is a group in Los Angeles County that was doing a lot of planting of trees, and for the life of me, I can't find that group.
Is
Are you
it three
familiar?
people?
I don't know. I'm asking. I'm
Okay. Oopsie. Yeah, I believe it's three people. At least
that
so
sounds
I'm
right.
in Cudahy. Yeah, and they did a few hundred trees in the Southeast Los Angeles area.
Right. That's the one. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, great. Um, anyone else have a question? I've got a ton of them. So, Liz, I think when you and I spoke prior to this event, you mentioned that there was like three main priorities for this year. One of them was the No Secret Police, but I can't recall what the other two are. I was just looking for my notes from our first conversation, but
Yeah, housing, and the other big one is I'm trying to figure out the title for it, but it's AI and data centers.
oh, right. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. They're
Yeah, would
popping
you
up a
maybe
ton. Yeah, I think there's a broad misconception that data centers are like a Midwest issue, but not necessarily in California. And even our members themselves, as we showed them a map of data centers in California, they were really surprised to see either how near their cities they were, or one of them found out they had a data center already in their city. And one, recognizing like there was no mitigation of harm, there was no development agreement that gave the city and its residents more funding. There was no way to control their energy consumption or anything like that. It was just, it popped up. And now it's a part of the city. And so our members, first and foremost, it's political education. It's informing them of what's happening in their communities, in their backyards, or what could be happening. And also recognizing that a lot of the time it's a regional issue. Especially in LA, we have a lot of smaller cities in which maybe there's a data center in a neighboring city, and you, as an elected official, cannot make the vote to change that happen. But can you pressure? Can you build up a organizing movement to push back against data centers? Like in Monterey Park, they've done a really phenomenal job at pushing back against data centers there. And industry, the city of industry, I should say, is the next one that is looking at data centers. And so, on the San Gabriel Valley, next piece is definitely activating our members to push against that.
Yeah. And can it be prevented through zoning, like where zoning laws that it has to go through a regulatory process before it gets into place?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some measures that can be taken. We saw in Montebello, they just put in a moratorium, a temporary moratorium. Moratoriums, I think legally speaking, they have to be on the temporary side. So that's one of the pieces that they have to work through. And then on zoning, I mean, part of it is either making it very difficult or banning them. And then in other areas, for example, Santa Clara. Santa Clara has been very open for data centers. They welcome them. And part of that is that they saw a structural deficit in their budget. And so they recognized that they could offset that. So they, instead of banning them, have made it so that because it is so near the tech boom regionally, right? They made it so that they really have to invest in the city. So there's different ways to approach it. But yeah.
Great, thank you. Jack, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Liz. I was wondering if you could explain more the difference between like the state chapters that are like formalized, the states that you organize in like specifically and support, like Florida and Michigan, and then other states that you might be involved in, but not necessarily as formally. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I do just California work. But as you can see on our website, we have several states that we organize in. Really, it means that we have dedicated staff. And so in California, New York, Texas, Colorado, all the states that are listed there, we have dedicated staff to support our members there. They also, for the most part, are states in which we have a large amount of members. But then even areas, for example, like the Pacific Northwest, I know they're looking at hiring a regional staffer for the entire Pacific Northwest, not necessarily per state, and then building it out that way. We do have members in, I believe, 48 out of our 50 states. We have one member in Alaska, and so that gives us a 48 state. But some folks are really piled on, again, Texas, California, New York, we have a ton of members, and so they have dedicated staff for that.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm muted. Elizabeth, please go ahead.
Oh, Liz, I had two questions. So I was wondering what you might say to young people to encourage them to get involved. Like, what is your story? How did you get on this path? And could your data center resources be transferable to city warehouses? In San Bernardino, that's our issue.
Yeah, definitely I hear that. I think in terms of young people, I mean, I fell into organizing very accidentally. as it happens, I was like, well, young people need free spaces in their city, just to study, to be, not out doing crazy things.
Yeah.
And so I started attending our city council meeting to find out how we could push for that. Attended a couple meetings, sat in the back, just paid attention, and then started asking at the dais or at the during public comment for free spaces for students to study, to get together. From there, started doing like alumni to student like teach-ins for the high school students, and again there I was told, oh, kids don't want to learn about how to get to college, and no one will go to your presentations, and 98% of our graduating seniors were attending these sessions consistent basis, literally sitting on closets, sitting on tables, because the school didn't give us a big enough space. But I asked our city council to give us that space. Started doing electoral campaign organizing, became their field director, ran the campaigns of 3 out of the 5, so it was majority. And then I saw them changing, and I didn't like it. Started trying to lobby them. They didn't care. And I said, I literally put you up there. Like, I'm not talking just like, I voted for you. I literally ran your campaign, bro. Sorry for saying bro, but it was just so ridiculous to me. And so I decided to run that moment. And since then, I was 25 when I ran the first time. We have a 24-year-old on council now. That first time when she was 23. And part of that is like, I think especially as a young Latina, it was very important to me that I saw that other Latinas in the field were frankly not supportive of me trying to run. They would try to push me against it. They didn't want me to, and they were the only Latina on the city council. And so that was very disheartening, and I knew that I didn't want to be that same way. And so we have, 4 progressive Latinas on the city council now, all of whom I've recruited and really supported through getting to the finish line. Hoping to get more young people this November, and so we have 5 out of 5, hopefully. But yeah, that's I think part of it is getting folks into what they want to see in their community. I think young people are really prime for that, especially Gen Z. They want to see walkable communities. They want to talk about third spaces. Third spaces are parks, they're libraries, they're benches on the street. And so how do you build cities like that, and how do you engage young people so that they can demand that? And then in terms of the resources for data centers and warehouses, we don't have warehouse resources, I believe, but we do work with a lot of great organizations that do. I'm sure you're aware of some of them, but I can definitely ask our team if we have some on hand.
Thank you. And where do you think the resistance from the other Latinas was coming from? That's really shocking that the city council person you helped elect turned. That's a little less shocking, although very disturbing, I'm sure. Yeah. But as far as, being like crabs trying to pull you down, where was it? Jealousy, or just thinking kind of a scarcity mindset that if you win, then that means they're at risk?
Yeah, they were of a different generation. And so I think that they came from a scarcity mindset of like, I've been the only one, and there's only seat for one. And if there's only seat for one and she's coming, then that means I'm gone, which doesn't have to be the case at all. But I think that that's just primarily how politics works, and unfortunately, and we have to change that. And so we've been trying to build more of a cohort of work here in Southeast Los Angeles.
Thank you so much.
That's a very inspiring story, Liz, and I hope that you inspire others to run too. James.
Yes, Liz. You can hear me. Okay.
Yes.
Good. I'm a policy guy. I'm a social worker, but I am a macro social worker, so I don't do individual therapy. And so you're interesting. You're talking about the old hats. I have an attitude that if you've been around since the Hubble Space Telescope was launched, and the EPA promulgated rates and regulations on unleaded gasoline, you've been around too long. Um, and I think that I would like to be involved with helping young people, new people, identify how to interface with electeds and make those, how to help them. That's all. But put
Mhm.
my name down as somebody to help out. And yeah, I'm a gray-haired guy. You can see I'm old because I'm Earthlink. And
That's funny.
yeah,
I have a Hotmail email, you know.
Okay.
Um,
no, the real old people are either Earthlink or AOL.
I
Yeah.
have an AOL somewhere. I
Yeah.
don't use it anymore.
Anyway,
Um,
and then one of the things I think that is missing, I find missing, is that people fail to realize that a lot of the effort, a lot of the work is done by the staff members, not the person who's the titular head. And so teaching people how to make their develop a relationship with the people doing the work, doing the day-to-day work, becomes important. And that relationship building. So I'm a big advocate for you know there's no labor lobby day and all that nonsense. Nah, my attitude is if you don't know the staff in your assembly member or your state senator or your supervisor's office, you don't need to go to Sacramento. You need to go and find out what's going on. Anyway, I'm off on a tangent. Thank you.
yeah, no, I mean, you're not wrong. I think there's definitely, uh, there's especially with larger jurisdictions, like the staff is 100% the folks you need to focus on. Every email I send to some of our larger city members, I include their staff because I know if for some reason our member's too busy, they miss the email, their staff will get it and it'll work. I think especially for smaller jurisdictions is where you have to really build both like of the relationships because they have less staff if any. Like I, for example, myself, I don't have any staff. It is me, myself, and I doing my social media, my website, my, looking for new policy, all of the above, organizing. And then I think part of it is also, and it is one of our core pillars at Local Progress, it's collaborative governance. Is that the idea that the elected official is not there alone. It is a community of support that is building together. Policies, like for example, rent stabilization, I did not just solo propose it and hope that we passed it. It was a policy that I had been wanting to push. As soon as I saw majority, at the door, I reached out to local organizations, built the policy together. I specifically asked them, what percentage do you all want to see as the cap for rent control? And they gave me the numbers. I said, this is what I think is realistic. This is what I think is not. And we worked off of that. And I mean, honestly, we got what they wanted. They wanted 3%, we got it. But, that collaborative governance model is something that we emphasize in our members, so that, they're not alone, but also you're building in the movement into the work that you do every single day. And you show why governance can work and it should work, although it doesn't always.
Are you in Hilda Salisa's district or Catherine Barger?
No, Janice Hahn.
Yeah.
Janice Hahn is over in your. Okay, all right,
Yeah.
okay.
All right, we have another question. Hello, Mike. You made it back home safely. That's good. You're on mute, so come off mute and ask your question. Oh,
It's great to hear your voice, Liz, and I'm just thinking about this where you are. I would like to connect with you further because One LA is working in your area. I'm an organizer or leader in ICON, which is a subset of the One LA community organizing network. And I just think it sounds like what you're working on and the kinds of things that we've been doing. We're working in parallel tracks and we need to get to
Yeah.
know each other. So we'll look forward to that conversation a little later. So thanks.
Yeah, I'll put my email in the chat one more time, for everyone. Oh, that's my work email. If it's Cudahy related, that's my personal, just to keep things separate, but yeah, absolutely.
So I think maybe now would be a great time for you to talk about, you talked about that in California alone, there's 300 members. That's only in a year or less than a year. And I think for most of us who are on this call, we want to see more of our local politicians. You described at the beginning the whole range of different local people that are eligible to join. What could our community do to help get more people as part of the coalition? What's the process to join? Maybe if you'd share a little about that.
Yeah, so our membership is the elected official. So if you know someone that should be a part of our membership, please ask them to join on our website. But we do have a partner sign up page that I will link here as well. Here you go, and that'll put you on our mailing list. Which, for example, the webinar yesterday, we call them policy snacks, but the webinar yesterday on No Secret Police, that is open to partners and members, so you would have been able to join us. We have a few more coming up on municipal grocery stores, which obviously was really ignited as an idea by the Mamdani campaign in New York City. And we have a few others on housing and progressive revenue generation at the municipal level.
And if I remember correctly, there's no membership fee for the officials to join. Okay.
Yeah, there's no membership fee for anyone really. So
Right.
if you want to join us for resources or anything like that, it's totally free. We're one of the few elected official organizations that is free. Everyone else charges a pretty penny.
And so it sounds like there's a series of events coming up, grocery stores, probably other things on the different priorities that you mentioned. And in terms of housing, you talked about rent stabilization. What other sort of policies on housing are are in the resource kit or being developed for future resource kits?
Yeah, one of them that was born in California was the ban on algorithmic rental price fixing. San Francisco and the Bay Area, obviously tech boom, tech center, and they saw that landlords, by way of like websites like RealPage, were colluding to increase rents and really price people out of housing. And so we held a webinar on algorithmic rental price fixing. One of our members, Supervisor Aaron Peskin, reached out and said, I want to ban this practice. Can I do that? And so we worked with our partners at ACE. They are a national or a statewide organization that really just does community organizing, but they also have a focus on housing. And we worked on a policy for Supervisor Aaron Piskin on that. They were the first county to ban that practice. Since then, we have, I think, nearly 15 municipalities across the country, but New York and California both passed state laws after we initiated at the municipal level. And that is part of our goal. It is to build at the local level so that we built up to state and national action. And I mean, it worked on that end. We also are working and trying to identify folks that can implement social housing models in the US. We actually took several of our members to Vienna a year and a half ago, I believe.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, to see the housing there. They got very lucky and they met someone that was like walking up to his home in the social housing complex, and he was like, "Do you guys want to see?" Like, and so they got to see the inside and how happy he was in his housing, how comfortable he was with being able to like stabilize there and live there. And so it's a really great opportunity for our members. That's one of the things we offer is learning opportunities. We have site visits. One of my first engagements in local progress was in North Carolina around social housing and affordable housing many years ago. And so, it's the learning and sharing of ideas.
And so and again, anyone who wants to ask a question, just let me know. But I'll keep going if no one else has one. So there's a process where the toolkit gets developed and goes to Resource Center, and there's a webinar. but my understanding was that there might be help in getting the things passed locally as well. In other words, the law may, a template of a law may be written, but that there's some navigation through the minefields of getting things passed as well. And maybe you could talk a little about that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of barriers that can like come up, when you're presenting something as a policy, local ordinance, or resolution even. I think the first big one is a city attorney. They tend to be very risk averse. I love attorneys, but they're very risk averse, and so they sometimes that means that they don't want to move on an item. And so part of our work there is also checking in, like having our members check in with attorneys. We have 6 attorneys on staff now, and then
Oh,
several
wow.
partner organizations that will take a look at policies, and we'll take a look at maybe questions that are brought up by an attorney and respond and say, no, this is the case law that makes this legal. This is what makes it acceptable and implementable. I think the next big piece is like language. We look at language for our members all the time. They send us language and they say, hey, this is being presented. This is my initial idea. What do you all think? We give them feedback as well, either to strengthen it or also saying like, this is great, good to go. But it's really building out what the member wants to see. All joining local progress is self-selected, right? Folks don't join local progress because they're bored. They join local progress because they want to really make change. That's usually how you find us, by word of mouth or Googling really, really hard in a heavy moment. And it really brings us folks that really want to push action. So we're very lucky that folks want to come to us and ask how to get things across the finish line. Funding mechanisms is also a big one, especially when it comes to housing. Social housing is of interest to our members, but also they recognize that it's expensive, and so that's where the like progressive revenue generation conversation has come from, really. How do we have money at the local level to build social housing, to stabilize communities, to make sure that folks aren't displaced when we build new affordable housing?
What are some of the different mechanisms that are getting employed for that kind of housing? Is it um, sales taxes or revenue or wealth taxes, or is it uh, pulling from other departments? What
Yeah.
is typically being done?
I mean, a little bit of all of those, right? I think we're talking to Richmond and seeing what's possible there, but they got a really beautiful, amazing settlement from the refinery in their city, and part of that I imagine is going to go to soil remediation because they've been there for so long, and there's probably going to be a lot of damages. And
Yeah,
so I imagine that that's part of it, but the rest they get to really imagine, like, what do we want? Like, not just what can we afford, but what do we want to see in our city? And so I know they've thrown out the idea of social housing as one potential, but they're still
yeah,
considering. So yeah.
yeah. Great. Thank you so much. Um, Elizabeth, please.
Bethlehem Steel.
Well, I could stall
Uh,
for you while you unmute.
Thank
So.
you. No, I just can't find my microphone in time on my. But I was wondering, Liz, do you know of any frameworks that these member cities are using to show key quality of life indicators? Here in Inland Empire, the Inland Empire Community Foundation is using a framework called Vital Conditions from the Ripple Foundation to show well-being, like housing, transportation, health.
I'm going to look up that report. I would love if you can share it because that sounds great. Trying to think through, I mean, I think most folks use the basic benchmarks of, like, I think folks living above or below the poverty line, how much folks are making, how close folks are to homelessness, especially I would say in the LA and the Bay Area. That's a big marker for folks. In terms of larger frameworks, I haven't seen too many. I know that there's a lot of interest in like how do we measure quality of life. And especially when it comes to affordability. That is the number one issue we're hearing from folks. Everything has to connect back to affordability, whether it's housing or food access or energy consumption, right? When it comes to, for example, like the data center work, that's part of the conversation is like it will make your energy more expensive. And that is one of the big pieces for folks in terms of like, can they sustain this as a family, for example. But I don't know of any particular frameworks. I can definitely look into it. But this Inland Empire vital condition sounds
Yeah,
really
we can share more about that. Elizabeth knows it better than I do, but yeah, 'cause several of our partners are working with that. Anybody else? Okay. I think you're also working on, or at least one city has worked on passing some AI and privacy laws, especially around flock. Can you share a little bit more about where that stands and if progress is being made?
Yeah, I think Flock and automatic license plate readers as a whole have definitely come under fire recently. I think a lot of our members already saw them as somewhat of an issue, but especially with the immigration enforcement that's been happening, the raids, the kidnappings of folks, there's a major concern about who is accessing that data. And we know that ICE and other federal agencies have accessed that data, sometimes without municipalities knowing until many years later. We saw in Mountain View, it wasn't ICE, but it was other federal agencies, federal and state agencies, that were accessing their automatic license plate reader data without their knowledge or consent. And I think the last one we know of was 2024, and they only found out 2 years later, right? Which is another major concern because you can't mitigate the harms as quickly. And so a lot of our members are questioning what they can do. I think in California, a lot of the messaging for many years now has been like, if you go outside, you're unsafe. And so people feel really unsafe, even if the statistics don't show that it's less safe. And of course, the feeling is real. So it's a really difficult issue for our members to navigate and push for like, I do want safer communities. And that is why I don't want these cameras on our streets, right?
Yeah.
And so one of our members, or one of our member cities, we have 4 out of the 5 council members are members of LP, and they did rescind the flock contract. They're not replacing it with something else. And we have, and that's in Maywood, California. That's actually really near me. But then folks in Mountain View are exploring their options in Santa Clara, in trying to think of it, and we're working with other cities and just political education at this point. But yeah, we've been working with several of our members to give information on how many hits. Like in Berkeley, I think there was 9 million hits. Hits are searches on their database from federal and state agencies.
Wow. 9 million. That's a lot.
Yeah, that's a ton.
Well, it's all a bunch of amazing stuff. I think, obviously, as I'm listening to it, a lot of it is sort of in the defensive mode, like the data centers, the privacy issues, other things like that. So it's really great to also hear that the third spaces and the housing stuff is there, groceries. Is there anything else that's sort of in the uh, less defensive, but more working towards the better future area that you want to share before we move into wrapping up? Or
I mean, I think the municipal grocery stores, the social housing, the, like just development of affordable housing is, I think, a very big building the future piece. Definitely a lot of defensive against what's happening now, but like a lot of proactive work in terms of immigration and localities. Like, should our localities be funding legal defense funds not only for immigrants but for other issues and tenants and whatnot? Should they be, having staff on site that can support with legal aid? All these pieces that our members are exploring, and yeah, it's an exciting time
yeah.
despite all that.
Well, Yeah, thank you. And hopefully that our community can help get you more members involved. It was, I originally heard about this from Carolyn Terosas, who's now the mayor of Santa Monica. And I think that the issue that she might have started with connecting me was anti-displacement. Is that something also that you guys work on? Just
Yeah. So we have several housing resources in our resources tab, some of which I can probably pull pretty easily. Um, but we have anti-displacement work. I mean, anti-displacement work can come in different shapes. Social housing is anti-displacement, eviction protections are anti-displacement, right? All these different pieces. Here, let
Yeah, I
me.
was more thinking small business, but I agree. Obviously,
Oh,
those are. I think the context that she mentioned at the time was helping businesses stay where they are so they don't get evicted, or keeping small businesses local. So,
yeah. I mean, I think part of the anti-eviction work is including small businesses as well.
okay, got it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, small businesses, commercial quarters can also have protections. And I think a
yeah.
lot of
That's
folks
true.
forget them for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, thank you everyone for coming. Any last question before we wrap up? If not, let's just give Liz some great thanks for the tremendous work she's doing on an ongoing basis and for taking some time today to help us understand these amazing resources that are available and just again all across the country, not just California. So
Thank you so
terrific.
much.
That's